Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today I want to talk about 9th edition. I want to give my feedback on 9th edition. I've officially had my first game. I wanted to make this video a couple of weeks ago, but since I had a bat rep that was filmed, you can go and watch that by the way on Hellstorm Wargaming. There's a little link in the description, everything like that. It's an amazing game, Imperial vs Iron Warriors. I wanted to make it then, but I didn't want to spoil it because they're releasing it this week, so I didn't really want to talk about it because the video that I'm going to be making now and talking about is some big spoilers to what went on in that game and how I liked it and all the stuff that went on in 9th edition. So let's jump in and let's get talking. So my main concern going from 8th edition to 9th edition was how much is going to change. I personally really liked 8th edition, so I was thinking to myself, how big is it going to be when 9th edition comes out, what the changes are going to be? And to be perfectly honest, there's not really that much changes. Yes, there is changes there, but it's nothing like 7th to 8th where it was basically like a whole different game. I love the way they changed how you make your armies now, where everyone gets a set amount of command points. When I used to make my armies, I always used to have fewer command points, but now, starting off with 12 command points, let's say, is really, really good because you can actually use stratagems now. My game I was in, I was like, oh my, okay, I've got access to a lot of stuff I can use now. Whereas before, I was like, oh, well, I have like 5, I need to save that for this and that for that. Now I'm like, okay, I've got a healthy amount to spend. And also on top of that, in the command phase, which is a new phase that's added into the tabletop, you also get 1 command point back. And some of the best Imperial Fist abilities are actually 1 command point. So it's like, this is like kind of free real estate for me at the moment in time. I'm earning this back and I can spend it in the game and it won't like inflict what I actually plan on using like the big stratagem command points for and stuff like that. So I think it's actually working out great how you actually make your army. I think it balances it out a little bit more. Like with Space Marines, you can actually stack command points and get a healthy amount of them. Some of the lists that I make, not so much, but like armies like Custodians and stuff, they're the ones that really struggled. So I think it really balances it out for those kind of armies that didn't really have access to the command point structure. So I really like it. I think it's a big change. Well, it's not really a big, well, it is kind of. I think that's the biggest change of 9th edition, but I think it's the most welcoming one, and I think it's one of the best ones about 9th edition personally. And also the changes to terrain. Now, as an Imperial Fist fan, I was very, very aware of the terrain changes, let's say, because in 8th edition, I basically just laughed at terrain. That was the way it was. It was like, all right, you're in cover. No, you're not, because I'm an Imperial Fist. Now it's changed. You have light cover, you have heavy cover, you have dense terrain. You have all these different types of terrain. If the terrain's more than 5 inches, I think, you can't be shot and stuff like that. So there was huge, massive changes when it came to terrain. I'm playing the first game and witnessing it firsthand how it actually worked because I was nervous going into it. I absolutely loved it. I really did love it. It stops you from being sniped across the board now, and I'll be completely honest with you, that was my main battle tactic back in the day. What I used to do is just bring executioner tanks and just sit in the corner of the board. They used to have 72-inch range, and they used to just absolutely smash anything that came into like the middle board. I just had the range. But now, since the terrain aspect has changed, you can actually put your chaps in the cover, and it changes the whole dynamic of the game, and it actually changes your approach then. Well, I should say my approach to actually dealing with people who are using the terrain stuff to benefit their army. You have to push out, you have to outflank, you have to really get them out of that terrain or get your guys in the terrain to actually deal with that actual army. And again, I think it's a fantastic change. It adds a whole different element of tactical presence to the game, which I'm sure a lot of people would welcome. Now, actually playing the game itself, because I know a lot of people have asked me this, what was it actually like playing the game, throwing the dice and stuff? It's just like 8th edition. It really, really is. Like there's no massive changes to movement, there's no massive changes to the shooting. It's just the different elements that affects that, like I mentioned, like terrain and stuff. One thing I actually want to talk about is objectives. Now, objectives for me are the main way to win game. I think it is the way to win a game now. It's all about objectives in 9th edition. Now, someone told me this before my game. They were like, Valrak, just a little bit of advice. Objectives are king. If you actually want to win your game, then go for your objectives. And I was like, is that right? Because what if I like wipe him out? On the tabletop, then objectives doesn't really matter. But what I learned is even if you wipe an army out, you table an army, the game still goes on based on objective-based, should I say points and stuff like that. So it's vital for you to actually stop the enemy from getting those points and getting more points than the enemy. And the way you do that is objectives, in my opinion. In my game, you watch with Hellstorm Wargaming. Again, a bit of a spoiler if you haven't watched it yet, but if you haven't, go and watch it. It's amazing. I won the game by playing the objectives. I hunkered down and I got the objectives. I kept the objectives. Secondaries is a big thing, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's all about that objective-based play. Going forward, catching the objectives, holding them, and battling the enemy. Make sure they don't take your objective. And then this goes into the secondary stuff as well, because now in the game, you have objectives. Now, for those of you who are aware how 8th edition played, what used to happen is that basically you had cards, and the cards were like, all right, kill an enemy psyker this game, or, capture objective 5 this game for so many, victory points and stuff like that. It was really, really random, and I did like it, but I also hated it at the same time, because it was like, okay, I've got all my army over here, and it's telling me to go to the opposite side of the board to capture this objective, and there's literally no chance I can get that. It's just a dead card. I'm not going to get any victory points this turn. Now what's happened is that you get to pick your own objective. You get to pick your secondary objectives. You have like a main objective and stuff depending on what mission you're playing or anything like that, but you can also pick secondary objectives where you earn points. Now, for example, I picked raise the banners in my game, so when I move on to an objective point, I raise the banners and I earn more points per battle round for holding that point. And again, it really worked for me with the way my army was. It was like mostly intercessors, so I could really swamp my enemy and capture those points and really battle it out and actually get the stuff. So now the games are more designed for your actual army playstyle rather than like just a randomness of it. And again, I absolutely love that, because you play to your strengths now. You don't play to like some random cards or anything like that. You actually design your army what you intended it to do. Maybe you want like a full bike force and stuff like that. Maybe you want like a full infantry force like mine was, where you can go and take the objectives. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe like you want to kill like the characters, take a bunch of eliminators or things that can kill characters. You can pick those secondary objectives now and actually get those points on the battlefield for the army that you've designed with. I think it is a fantastic change. It's completely changed the way I'm going to be playing with now. Like in tournaments and stuff like that, I only ever played at GW tournaments, so I never really picked secondary objectives or anything like that, because they never had that kind of stuff. It was like their little things. Like this has come from like the ITC kind of tournament. Like if I'm not mistaken, the guy who ran the ITC or made the ITC or something, he became like one of like the guys who wrote the battles and stuff for GW. So this is where all these secondary objectives come on, and people are like, oh yeah, secondary objectives are amazing, some of the reasons I've been stating, and I was like, is it going to be that really good over like what we've got now? And I've got to say, from my first game, I'm completely in love with it, and I would never go back to like playing with the randomness cards and stuff like that. I literally love these secondary objectives, because you can get more points out of your army that you have actually built for that purpose. Other little changes like Overwatch, I'm a bit torn on this. I would personally like to fire Overwatch at everything, but I understand how Overwatch can be devastating if you do it for everything, let's say, because there's so much firepower now in Warhammer 40,000, especially with Space Marines. I'm just going to stick with the Space Marine subject because that's the army that I play with. I'm sorry. I know Tau is different in the way they work, and Ultramarines, you can select up to 3 different units as well if you use I think it's a stratagem or something like that. You can really dish out the damage. But as I was playing with my Imperial Fist, what basically happens is you have an Overwatch, but you can only Overwatch with 1 unit. That's basically it. So if a guy charges your intercessors over one side of the table and you choose to Overwatch with those intercessors, then you can't do it with the other intercessors who are also getting charged on the other side of the table. That's how it works. So you have to really tactically pick, all right, which is going to be the viable for me to actually Overwatch into the enemy. And again, like I said, I would love to fire at everything, but I can understand why they've changed that. I do think it allows more of the melee-esque armies to have more of a chance, because, again, I'll go back to what I just stated. There's so much firepower that's out now. There's so much DACA you can bring. Like, if people... I remember when people used to charge my Executioner tanks, I actually wiped out two demon princes on two separate Overwatch charges with my executioner tank, because they were charging into my heavy laser destroyer, and I the dice gods were with me, and I got like sixes with it, and I can just completely rip them apart. But of course, if that was to happen again, and I Overwatch one time, I wouldn't be able to do that again, and it would have given that guy more of a chance, let's say, to get in and actually do some damage and stuff. So it does change the gameplay in that kind of sense, and I guess it's welcomed. I'm looking at it from more of a selfish point with a shooty armor, and I'm not really thinking of like the melee armies who really, this is going to absolutely benefit. So yeah, I'm going to say it is a welcome change, and I'm sure a lot of melee armies would agree with it. Also, the board side changes. Sorry if I'm mentioning this right at the end. I should have mentioned this earlier on in the video. Completely forgot about it, to be fair. So for those of you who know, the board size has changed. It was, it was the big board, and now it's like more of a smaller board. I think one of the reasons GW did this is to make the games go faster, because of course, the boards are smaller now, so you can get into range, combat faster. That means you can actually, fire, kill, attack and stuff, wipe out units more. Also, with the point changes as well, I'm not really going to go into the point changes in this video. Maybe we'll do that another time. But the way the point changes have changed, more or less everything went up in price. Executioner tanks, intercessors went back to their normal price before the FAQ. But what it means is that, of course, when stuff goes up in price, point cost, there's less there on the table. So again, that adds into the factor of that. I think it's going to be a more faster, fluid game. My game that we had at Hellstar Wargaming was really, really fast. Well, I say it was fast. It was long in a sense, because of course we were filming everything, cutting, doing like voiceovers and stuff like what we did that turn. But when it came to actually throwing dice and actually doing the stuff on the tabletop, it seemed a lot faster. Like you were into combat a lot easier, you were in range a lot easier, so you can actually start bringing the DACA down on your enemies and stuff like that because of the small board, or the smaller board, let's say, of this new edition. Just an ending note, I love 9th edition. I think it's has some great changes. If I had to pick something that I actually love more than anything else, it's probably it's hard. I love the terrain changes, but I also love the secondary objectives. I love now you can actually build an army and play it to your strong points, rather than it being just like a random card pick and stuff like that. So, do you know what? I actually am going to pick the secondaries. I know the secondaries were already there in ITC and stuff like that, but now that GW have brought it in fully into their rules, and you can do that kind of stuff, I love it. I absolutely bloody love it, and hopefully they'll improve it even more. Maybe more secondary objectives with different missions and stuff like that. Expand it. Give us more, GW. That is something I would absolutely love to see. Right, that's enough rambling for me for one video. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching this video. If you've got any thoughts, feedback, anything like that, if you've played 9th edition, if you hate it or you love it, post it down below, what you loved, what you hated about it, what changes that you wish would have happened, maybe in 9th edition, which they didn't bring in. Put it all down there, and as always, we can have a nice little talk, and just talk about it. Who would have thought? Right, see you now, have a great day, and bye-bye.